all know, we started this initiative called Women Builders to ensure that as a club, we are doing something about bringing more and more women into the workforce. And what we strongly believe as a club is stories are powerful. And when you share these stories, it will hopefully ignite millions of young girls and maybe also young boys. But the idea is that we have such fantastic stories of women leaders, and leverage this platform to ensure that we can get some learnings and share it with our community. So first of all, again, thank you so much for joining in on this evening. Very excited to invite a very special guest, Ghazal Alagh. Thank you for joining and for doing this.
Hey, thank you, Ahana. Thank you for having me. I think it's a pleasure for me to be here with all of you guys here. Of course, I couldn't get into an esteemed institute like this, never tried for that matter, but it's a place that we all look up to, right? I would love my kids for them to figure it out and find a place there. But as nervous as I am to be able to live up to the expectations that all of you have from me, I'm equally thrilled to be able to share my experience, and probably some bit of it from small journey that I've had till now. I'll be able to help, and not with what I believe in, but more with the examples that I've lived in the past 10 odd years. So looking forward to answering some of the questions as well from the audience.
Super excited, as I said, to have you. You don't need any introduction, but still let me just share your journey. So today we have Ghazal, co-founder and chief innovation officer at Honasa, a corporate trainer turned artist come entrepreneur. Ghazal Alagh co-founded Mama, driven by the passion for making early parenting stress-free. She spearheads innovation, community, and new brand initiatives. Her overarching vision is to make this world a better and safer place with toxin-free, made-safe certified products for everyone. Ghazal has been awarded at the Business World 40 Under 40 Awards in association with Business World Disrupt for being a change maker and corporate leader. And we're super excited and again, super thrilled to have you and to have you for this series and have a conversation with the community. So Ghazal, I would start by saying that your journey has been truly inspirational, not only personally for me, but also a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of young girls out there. And one theme which I have seen consistently in your journey is challenging the status quo. And what I thought today, if we can discuss few chapters of your life where this theme has been clearly demonstrated. So let's start from the beginning. What was the inspiration to start your entrepreneurship journey? And whenever I have spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs out there, the first step is always the most daunting one. You are always questioning, am I ready? Is this the right idea? Coming from an arts background, how did you get this fearlessness that, I want to build a business? And maybe, if you can touch upon your childhood, did your childhood play a role in getting that fearlessness?
Sure. I think my childhood did have a major role to play in making me become the person that I am today, or the choices that I've made in life. I come from Chandigarh, and Chandigarh 30 years from today was actually a small town with people who were slightly narrow-minded. I would say, at least I came from a family, and mine was a joint family. So all the chachas, the ayas, and us used to live together. So a big family with lots of cousins growing up. And I mean, I did not start challenging the status quo, but my parents did. So that was the first step towards understanding how society works and how you can also have a different mind of your own, right? So, for example, growing up, all our cousins had certain mindsets that girls are supposed to study only to get married, right? So there was no importance on performance or how you're doing or excelling. It was just to spend time till you eventually find a man to get married to and live your life. That was one. Second, of a lot of biases in terms of girls staying closer to the house till they get married, or not wearing sleeveless clothes because it was looked down upon, or stuff like that is what I saw growing up. And I also saw at the same time my parents challenging that. And they were at the front of it, fighting it out with the society, where they said that I have, my father used to say, I have two girls and I will let them make their own choices. Until the time I am okay with it, none of you guys have the permission to even come and present your views to my daughters. Similarly, my mother was a very has played a very active role in ensuring that we understand what financial independence was very early on. And she always said that if you want to make your own choices in your life, you need to earn your own money. If you're taking money, no matter from your father, from your husband, from your brother, you will always be dependent on them having a say in what you should and you should not do, right? So some of these values actually helped me a lot to make the right choices and keep challenging others as well as my own self. And I think the third thing that they taught me was, life is short, so enjoy what you do while you're at it. So either do something with 100% of your attention, dedication given to it, or just don't do it at all, right? So I think that I've grown up with those set of values. Of course, inspiration to start Mama Earth came after two of my other startups failing. As I was growing up, I always knew that I wanted to be the strong person who's walking like a big white ally in an office, wearing a suit and heels, and that was the perception that I had. It wasn't until Mama Earth happened that I was very clear on what I wanted to be. I was trying a lot of things out. I did my corporate trainer. I became a corporate trainer with an IIT and worked with Infosys in parallel, preparing softwares. Did that for about 5 years. After that, suddenly I got when I got married, I had 2 months of time. We were supposed to move to Philippines. And that's where I picked up my passion for painting. I was a very good painter back in school. So that was just the time to go back to your hobbies, as they say, right? And realized that I had some different energy towards painting or creating artworks, and I could do that day in, all night long without getting tired. And my husband, Varun, who's also my co-founder, saw that, and he decided to send a few of my works to New York Academy of Arts, because that was my aspiration. That's something that I always wanted to go to, and I'd expressed n number of times that I didn't get a chance to go there because I was good in studies. And when you're good in studies, your parents think math, science, computers are the subjects that you should take up, and that's like the ultimate rat that you get into. I think he took that seriously, and I'm so glad he did. I got a call from there. They called me on scholarship. I studied there for about a year and a half. Came back, decided now my passion meets money. I'm going to be an artist. I was selling works nationally, internationally. Thought that was something that I could do for the rest of my life. Until, of course, my son came to our lives. And unfortunately, he had some skin condition where a lot of products were not suiting him, and they used to cause rashes on his body as soon as we put them on. So I think that was the largest inspiration. As a new mother, you feel everything that's going wrong with your baby is your fault. Right. And I took that as personally as it could be, and just tried to figure out what was happening, and then realized that it was the products. There was no other problem. Made kitchen my best friend, started doing a lot of DIYs after watching YouTube and learning how to make my own emulsions. And that was cumbersome when you're a new mother. Just taking care of a baby and keeping it alive is a very big responsibility, and you're already struggling at that. And giving anything else that amount of time was not possible. So started ordering products from outside of India. Again, coming from middle class, our budgets didn't allow us to do that for long. So decided, as a cribbing wife, and they say that, wives always crib. My cribbing actually helped. So as a cribbing wife, I went to Varun. I said, why is nobody doing anything about it? And, this needs to be solved. And just like in a conversation, he said, why don't you do something about it? If you're so passionate about it, try and figure it out. And I think that was the start of Mama Earth. So usually cribbing is looked down upon, but in my case, it worked to my favor. I tried to figure it out, eventually did. So launched Mama Earth as a baby care brand in December 2016 with just 6 products. Now, of course, we have more than 350 products. And what started as one brand is now 6 brands strong. But yeah, that's how I got inspired. I mean, I inspiration or just that feeling that I have to figure it out, right? I might be able to do it, I might not be able to do it, was something that happened in my case. You talked about being fearful to start and take that first step. That's actually very true, and that was true in our case as well. I still remember when we told even our parents or relatives and friends about starting Mama Earth up, they thought we had gone slightly mad. We got questions like, why do you want to give the comfort of the life that you're living right now to get into uncertainty? Our friends and relatives also talked about the fact that you have a 1-year-old, you're putting his life at stake, and some of those biases which other people have in their mind, and then they try and make you feel guilty about making those choices. I mean, all of that happened, but I feel that the purpose in my case was so strong. It was my own child, who had seen crying and nobody else had, right? I just knew that, and what I also realized over time, that it was not just Agastya, but it was a lot of other people who were actually getting products from outside of India, because they were convinced that the quality of the products available in India were not okay. Second, India did not have any guardrails around what should be used on a baby and what should not be used on a baby's skin, while all other developed countries did have a proper guideline around ingredients to be used, around storage, around packaging, preservative system, etc. So that was something that pushed me to get into it. At that point of time, I thought that if I'm able to get 10,000 customers and like reach to make this brand like 100 crore brand, I would have killed it. I would have done it. That was the goal that I started with. Of course, as we got into it, these goals kept moving forward, thankfully. But yeah, we were scared. We did have our doubts. We gave ourselves time. We said 1 year is what we put into it. If we are not able to figure it out, we go back to our jobs, because of course a child's life is also not something that we wanted to put at stake. But regret was that one feeling that we were not okay living with, that 5 years down the line, I don't want to regret that I didn't even give it a try. If there was some brand who was listening to consumers, I would have probably given this idea to them and they would have done something about it. But thank God they didn't, and we did. But the second thing is, fear as an emotion is so strong. The only way to overcome that feeling is by having another emotion which is stronger. And in my case, that emotion ended up, I mean, I don't know if it's an emotion, but excitement combined with passion to figure it out was my stronger, emotion than the emotion of fear, is what helped me move forward. Does till date, for that matter. A lot of times when we are scared, when we are afraid, but you got to keep moving. That's it.
Very well said, Ghazal. And I think fear will be there. And whenever you are starting or maybe trying to do something new, you will be out of your comfort zone. But finding that courage and finding a deeper passion definitely gives us a push that we really, really need. And congratulations on adding many more zeros to that 100 crore target that you have. So moving on, you found an idea you're very passionate about. It was a personal problem. As a mother of a 1-year-old, you decided the business model for this product by innovating a completely new channel. Like you started the D2C channel when the term D2C did not exist. So again, the same theme. How did you get the confidence that this is the right strategy for your business when nobody had done it in the past?
So, one, it wasn't a strategy, to be very, very honest. It was more choosing from the limited options that we had. See, at that time, I think the options that we had were offline, followed by e-commerce, followed by D2C. right? Now with offline, we could have done offline, but we would have started with like a small part of Delhi, entered into one store, seen the response, probably expanded into like 5 more stores, then eventually into Delhi as a city, and it was just a very slow process. One. Second, nobody wanted to keep us. So we did not have an option. I mean, everybody said, who are you? Get the hell out of here. We are not giving our shelf space to you. For that matter, they were selling shelf space. We didn't have the money to buy it. And we didn't even know how to measure return on that money. And coming from middle class family, right, you have those budgets, those monthly budgets in which you want to meet all ends, and that's how we were running business. We gave ourselves budget for a month, and this is what we spend versus what we earn is what we want to see. um, uh, so that channel did not work for us, majorly because nobody wanted us. Second option was e-commerce, so we launched ourselves with Amazon exclusive, which is Amazon Launchpad. Did that for about a couple of months. The only problem was we were not able to connect with our consumers. So whatever we were selling, I didn't know how to take feedback from them. Were they liking the product? Were they placing repeat orders or not? And that was something that as a young business you want, right? I mean, for me, because nobody was listening to me, I was very sure that I want to hear them out. And hence the only left option was selling it directly to consumers through your website. That also gave us the data through which we could connect with them. We could talk, interact, gain more insights. And we were very clear that that's the route that we want to follow to build this brand up. For that matter, that's the route that we've been following even till today. Each and every employee in our organization talks to about 30 to 35 consumers every quarter, just on what their experience has been. They bought certain products from us 2 months back, they must have used it, feedback on the product, on the delivery system, customer care, and hence are we managing that well or not. And purely because of that, we chose the D2C route. And as we got into it, we realized that this was actually, it made a lot of sense because it was not divided by geographies, right? It did not have any, I mean, I can use like a very different word, but it wasn't discriminating basis geographies. आप एक जगह पे बैठे, you're sitting in your office, you're able to cater to all the consumers pan India. You're not stressed about finding those 100 loyal consumers within one city, but you can actually get them all over India. And that process was faster. Back then, it was easier. It was also very convenient to connect with them, to talk to them, to get their data, to be able to sample products to them. And that's what we did. The way our innovation funnel also works, and I take care of that personally, was that whenever we got a feedback, be it a good feedback or a bad feedback, we worked on it. We improvised our product where needed, and we sent it back to the same consumer to get a repeat feedback from them. And when consumers saw us doing that, they just felt that we are a part of co-creating products with Mama Earth, and it's a journey that we want to be a part of. They just felt that this is a brand that we own because we have a say in what should come next, and they were actually seeing that happening from us in terms of products coming out in the market. One of the mothers talked to us about this cumbersome problem that when babies go through the problem of colic in the first 6 months, it's actually very inconvenient to boil the oil, put hing and fennel in it in midnight, and then wait for 1 hour for the oil to cool down, then apply on the tummy of the baby. And then we have to wait for so long till then the baby keeps crying. And that's something that really disturbs you. And we created this 100% natural hing roll-on that mothers can just, until date, I mean, I'm using it on my younger one now who's 1 year old. But stuff like that is what has built Mama Earth. So D2C was the only choice I think that we had purely because of these reasons. And touchwood, it worked out well. We are still learning. It's a very complicated channel. We're still try to understand so many funnels and how to track LTV correctly and how to look at data differently and all of that. But till the time we are at it, I think till the time we are moving forward positively, it's okay.
And Ghazal, on this, I'm going to take a question from the audience. So Faria is asking, can you tell us about a particular challenge you faced while building your startup and how you overcame it?
So, Faria, a particular challenge, I don't know which one to talk about because there were so many. But I think very early on, making people see the vision that you have in your mind and them not being able to see it was the biggest challenge during the early years, right? You are onto something, you want to build something, and you really want to move fast. But when you're dependent on other people to work with you, and getting them on board, be it employees, be it vendors, be it investors, be it consumers, was the toughest part. Um, it was more like whatever conversation we were having in the first 6 months, we were selling ourselves to them. And of course, then you get rejected by 100 people, and then there comes that one person who believes in you, who understands what you're saying, and they come on board. Um, it looks like it doesn't require as much hustle. It might have been easier, but it did. In our case, it was that tough. And eventually, I think the high points were also the same. The first time our partner, which is our manufacturing partner, when he said, yes, okay, I will make your products, 100 rejections and then one person saying yes to, felt like, oh my God, we've cracked the first big problem, right? The first person who comes on the website and buys from you just tells you that, okay, my funnel is working, I'd put in this work, I'd put in that. I think some of these things have been challenging, and as a woman, I've faced a lot of biases as well, right? I went to this one factory where a production was supposed to happen, and I reached the gate and they tell me that the person who was supposed to take the production is not available anymore, because he decided that there was another meeting which was more important to him, and he felt it was not important for him to tell to me he was traveling all the way from Gurgaon to another location which was 5 hours away. And I reached there and I get to know that the person has already left. Then I'm convincing the factory to let me in so that I can work with the workers in the factory, if not that person. And they're telling me that, you might feel uncomfortable. They're all men. Do you have somebody else accompanying you? Do you have a male person who can? And I'm like, I am not afraid. I will figure out what's your problem. Why are you having that bias? And, it becomes really difficult to sort of get to those terms with people in manufacturing industries. They don't even want to listen. So I think those were kind of the biggest challenges. Of course, after then, the business started growing. People started seeing the brand in market. A lot of confidence came from when they were talking about the brand to each other. Things got easier. Of course, all of these partners are still now part of our largest manufacturing houses. Now they have a lot of respect, but it did take all of that effort and time to sort of get people on board with us.
No, that's such a powerful story, Ghazal, and I completely resonate because I also interact with contract manufacturers day in and day out. But now I hope that the kind of experience they had with you, the next time when there is a young female founder, they would be, please, andar zarur aiye.
I hope so too.
So, Ghazal, I think let's talk about these biases. You definitely mentioned that, especially as a women leader, there are these preconceived notion which are there, and let's address those. Let's talk about it. This is a closed community, so we can be as open, and folks keep asking questions. I know there are many questions, and I'll keep taking these questions. So let's take a step forward. Mama Earth is already a leading brand. You are expecting your second baby. And of course, you get this advice, Ghazal, slow down. You have achieved a lot. Why don't you take some time off? How did you shut that noise and decided to do absolutely opposite? Not only keep growing the business, but also decided to do Shark Tank.
So I actually took it very personally when somebody said that. And it was a very, very close friend of mine who had seen me build what I have and seen me hustle through it. And the reason why I got put off with that comment was because I wasn't thinking about it. And somebody else is trying to put that bias into my mind or make a decision for me on my behalf. It didn't feel like a suggestion. Had it been a question, I would have loved to answer it, but I took it personally because it wasn't a question. It was more like a suggestion. You should be doing this. That ticked me off, right? And I've seen a lot of time some of these biases are put by other people and what they believe onto your life, and then you're made to believe into them. Happens with a lot of girls, happens with a lot of women in my office, right? And the only thing and even then, what I said was that I keep goals over my circumstances and not my circumstances over my goals, right? If I'm in that situation, I might choose to slow down. That's my personal choice, and that's absolutely okay. All right. But if I'm not talking about it, you wouldn't talk about that to, say, Varun, who's also going to be a father. You wouldn't talk about it to another male founder who's also expecting a child in 6 months. You might be thinking that, okay, physically she's bearing the baby and she should take it slow, but hey, let's give the other person some importance to take decisions for his or her life, right? So that did trigger. And at the same time, of course, like you said, I had the Shark Tank opportunity, which I was contemplating if I should take up or I shouldn't take up. How would things move? For me, it was not a normal pregnancy. It was a pregnancy with complications. So all of that was there, but then it just, you need like some spark to just kick you off, and that was that. I used it to fuel me up rather than put me down, and I said, you know what, I'm going to take this up as well. I'm going to bear a child. I'm going to take up Shark Tank. I'm going to continue building my organization. I'm going to come up with 2 new brands by the end of the year. I'm going to do it all, and you are going to see that it doesn't require me to slow it down. That's how I took it. And that's exactly what I said, right? One strong emotion can only be overcome with another strong emotion. Now, how do you choose what that other emotion should be? It could bring you down, it could lift you up. In my case, I always go for the other side. But I'm so glad I did. I'm really happy. That experience in itself was so enriching. It was new. It brought entrepreneurship to mainstream. Everybody has started respecting. For that matter, I was talking to Anupam from Shadi.com, and he said now the first search that people are doing in terms of selecting a groom is actually entrepreneurs more than anything else. So I said, okay, we have data backing that. That's the greatest thing. But yeah, that's how all of that happened. And I mean, in my view, it's just that people will have a lot of biases in their mind. You choose which bias you want to pick up and which you don't want to pick up. You realize you don't want to pick up 90% of them. At least that's what I have encountered in my journey.
No, that's so powerful, Ghazal. How you react to a situation defines your journey. And I guess that is what we can see as you are building Mama Earth. Maybe I'll start inviting few folks, as I can see there are a lot of questions. So Lavanya, do you wanna maybe jump in and ask a question yourself to Ghazal?
Great, thanks. Hey, Ghazal, thanks so much for sharing your journey. This is amazing. Kudos to you. Just my question was, sorry, more around, I'm just going to turn the video off. My question was more around just the, your vision, right? And I'm an entrepreneur myself. A lot of times you have a vision when you start off, and then you have a lot of stakeholders who come in, especially investors, and then they start to influence your vision, right? So I just want to learn a little more about what was that vision and how did you stick to your vision if you did, and did it morph over time? If it did, how do you sort of combat a lot of those sort of stakeholders that push and pull your vision? How do you sort of deal with that? So that was my question, but love your thoughts on that.
Sure. Can you give me 1 minute? I think the other laptop is buzzing.
Sure, go ahead.
And Lavanya, we can't see you. So I don't know, Khushbu, if we can put spotlight as well, that would be fantastic.
Okay. So sorry. Yeah, so Very, very relevant question, Lavanya. I think a lot of people struggle through this. But my take on this is slightly different from others. See, it depends the kind of relationship you're building with your stakeholders or with your board members. For us, from the very start, I've been a very studious child all through my life. And for me, teachers or principals have been those role models which you look up to and then you go to for any suggestion and then you want them to guide you, etc. That's how I built my relationship with them from the very starting on. Our vision, of course, evolved over time. Our vision was always in line with how consumers saw us evolving over time. And that's what we took back to the board, right? And when we were having conversations with the board, we used to sound some of these things off those people. For example, we still have like fortnightly catch-ups with our board members just to ensure what we are thinking. Are they in line? Early on itself, you get to know if they are thinking differently. If they actually, in my case, they've been very, very helpful in connecting me to the right kind of people, in challenging what I was thinking sometimes, and making me question my own choices. And a lot of times for the better, not for the worse, right? Now, the problem occurs where we think that this is our vision, this is how we want things to do, and we start treating as the other person as an outsider. End of it, you guys are building the same company. You are optimizing for creating value for the company and for yourselves. So the goal is the same. Once you get on that same page, how you navigate through some of these pieces together makes that relationship good or bad, right? So in our case, I think it has been working till date. For that matter, today morning, I had a call with my investors who are more like friends now. I bounce off what I'm thinking, how I'm thinking, what's the future going to be? Do they have something in their mind that I should be cognizant of? And when you do those catch-ups, when you exchange notes like that to the board meeting, they're largely on page with you because they know what has gone into building what you're presenting to them. And you do that individually with all of them. Something or the other will be there in that deck eventually in the board meeting that they'll be able to relate with, and they'll see, okay, we talked about this. Oh, this, he talked to that person I suggested him to. Oh, he has taken my feedback seriously, and they're more inclined towards getting aligned to your vision. That is something like very personal, but that is something that has been working for us really well. And I think even going forward now, we have a board of independent board members, which is even more tougher because they will show you the mirror, right? They will be like, we have done this, we have an experience of 50 years, this is how industry works. But I think taking some of those feedbacks more positively, and just questioning your own self and probably finding more texture around it, you might be able to come up with data which then says that, you were saying this, but we feel this way, but then you'll have data to present, and that sort of takes care of everything.
Got it. Thanks so much. I think that's really powerful. And what is your vision for the future? Is it still focused on kids? I mean, haven't really followed totally all the brand products you have, but I live in the US, so I'm not a consumer at this point. Would love to learn a little more about your vision.
Not a consumer. Oh my God. Okay, let me first tell myself. We have 6 brands. We have Mamaearth, we have the Derma Company, which is based on active ingredients, which takes care of all skin concerns. We have Be Blunt for salon-like hair at home. We have Aqualogica for deep hydration into your skin, in case you have oily skin. We also have Ayuga, which is all Ayurveda, and we have Dr. Sheth, which is at a cusp of natural and active. So a lot to offer. Please give us a try. But my vision, I think, and I'd like to divide it personally and professionally. My vision professionally is to see Honasa, like now we call it HCL. It's a recent change. I've been like used to calling Honasa Consumer Private Limited, Honasa Consumer Limited, to be the largest beauty and personal care brand, #1 choice of consumers when it comes to anything beauty and personal care. So that's how I envision the next 10 years for us. I think personally, I'm a mother. I used to be an artist. I am an artist. I would like to take more time to give back to my passion and pick that up again. And I think just keep learning. I've found this new comfort in um, challenging my own self and learning new things over time, and I think that really makes me happy. So that fits into both personal and professional, but yeah, that's how I see myself.
Thanks so much for sharing. I'll hit you up next time I'm in India. I'm definitely going to try your products.
Hey,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lavanya. Love Ghazal, how as a founder, you're always a salesperson first, that you have to try the product and see, even after building a unicorn, you're like, this customer, I have to convert. So super inspiring. I think what you said, your personal goal. And one thing which I want to touch upon, Ghazal, is authenticity. And what I have seen personally as a leader, what you have showcased is being 100% authentic version of who you are. And this is so reflected whether in your interviews, whether it's your social media accounts, and it's also reflected in the culture that you are trying to build at Mama or the Honasa. So would love to understand, how have you managed to stay so authentic on this insanely fast growing company?
So Hannah, I think it takes more effort to not be authentic than to be authentic. So I've not like managed to do anything. I've just let it be, like I'm going to be me. I think when I was building Mama Earth, one of the voids that I deeply felt for the first 2 years was, one, not having somebody to look up to who was reachable, who I could just reach out to and understand that what were their problems, were they facing similar challenges as me, did building take so much effort, were these challenges between founders and co-founders like real, am I doing something wrong, can I do something better? And I did not have that person who could actually come and talk to me, or I could go and talk to. It took me 2 years to come to that place where then eventually I had 2, 3 folks. So one, that. Second, what I also felt after that was that all of these women that I was talking to were trying to cover themselves under something which was like very strong, very manly, emotionless, trying to wear somebody else's shoes, and it was visible. Because why would you only talk about goods, and like, did you really not have any struggles? Am I the only one? And that feeling was really uncomfortable. For the longest period of time, I felt that I wasn't the right fit to be an entrepreneur. And that personally is something that I'm fighting with my own journey. I want to be my real self. I want to be my authentic self, because I want others to see that these are the challenges which come in. I want others to see that while you're building, you're also living a life which is absolutely okay. You got to have fun. It is, I strongly believe it's not like ये हो जाएगा तो मैं ये करूंगी, I'll have kids, then I'll start up. Okay, now I'm starting up, I cannot have kids. So many women talk about this to me. And I just want to lead by, as they say, lead with examples, setting the right examples, right? That, hey, मैंने कर लिया था. So if you need help, I am here, right? I am making a business. I am having kids. I am enjoying my life. I will work till 6:30, but then I will also ensure that possibly half an hour I'm giving time to my partner, living a life, going out on date nights, going out for dinners, singing songs, dancing. And that personality of us is also reflective in the culture that we are building at Hunasa, right? So every Wednesday, 12:45 sharp, no matter what meeting you are in, no matter what you're doing, we have literally came out of our board meetings, told our members that, this is an activity that we'd want to do. But 12:45 sharp, everybody will get up on their seats and start dancing for 15 minutes. And that's like a midweek energy boosting session, because we know people love to dance. Even if people don't like to dance, they feel energized and they feel happy, and the entire organization is smiling. So why not? Every Friday, we will have this 1 hour, which will be dedicated, and we call it Coffee with Founders, like copy it from Coffee with Karan, but like Coffee with Founders, where you can have honest chats with us. about your life, about work, about organization, like candid, honest chats, no bars at what you're like you need to have a topic or this is what you're nothing. And it's a closed room of just 10 people at a time. So I think some of this is more to build the culture at the organization, coming more from that you don't need to pretend to be someone, right? Be real, be honest, and that's fine. Eventually I get a lot of these messages that you're running such a big company, you can't be doing this on Instagram, you can't be dancing, come on, you can't be posting these videos on LinkedIn. And I'm like, who's telling you that I should or I shouldn't? Why not? I believe in that. I will do that. I've got a lot of warm responses where people have actually come back to me and said that this was helpful. I've actively talked about the fact that meri maid chutti pe hai, I have to go home and cook food today, so I'm leaving half an hour early. And my team actually finds comfort in that. And I see them more driven, and I see them working from home by choice. If they have to, I see them bringing their kids to office because, hey, it's important for them. They don't want to let their work go, but their kids are also a priority. So this is the way that they've figured to manage it. And that is actually a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. So I think I personally encourage some of these things. I've also learned them over time. But I think in all of these years, it's largely been about the void that I felt, that I've been trying to fill in with whatever little I have. And I hope over time it does inspire this whole generation to take up more challenges, to come up with newer ideas, to not give up just because they felt that their circumstances were not in line with what they'd envisioned. But yeah, let's see.
No, I think Ghazal, I have seen those 12:45 Wednesday dance videos, and just seeing that video, it gives a lot of energy. So completely agree with that. Let me bring in few more folks. Burgess, you have a question. So yeah, why don't you ask Ghazal?
Sure. Hi, Ghazal. Thanks so much for being here. I had a question on the Indian market. It's a very price sensitive market. So I would imagine that with your products, there's a lot of use of alternative raw material, toxin free material. So how are you able to deliver that to consumers while keeping costs and prices affordable?
Hey, hi, Burgess, and thank you for that question. I think that question we also had when we were just starting the brand, where we felt that these ingredients are not being used in India, they are being exported. There might be like a lot of cost associated with it, because of which a lot of these bigger brands are not doing it. But that's not the case. It's the choice of ingredients that you pick up. And in India, very good quality of raw materials are actually available at very good prices, with which you can keep a certain margin which is suitable for your business and offer it to your consumers. What was happening prior to this was that bigger organizations were optimizing for better margins and choosing the not so safe grades of RMs, because that just helped them take their margin from say 70% to 80%, and that was the cost optimization that they were doing, which is what we fought, right? Which is something that was not okay. Till today, all of the RMs, and not all of them are from India. A lot of them are also being imported from outside of India. We work with vendors who are experts in them, who have their larger factories outside of India, and they bring them in. But what we ensure is that whatever we are using, that formula in itself goes to Made Safe, which is a not-for-profit organization that we work with. They check each and every ingredient that we are putting in the product to be safe, not just for baby skin or for adult skin now, but also for the environment. They also check for how we are storing that formula, what are we storing it in, so that the formula doesn't interact with the vessel that the product is getting stored in, and all of those checks are done. But I think, see, personal care and especially beauty is one category where you can have a cream which is 200 rupees to like 2000 rupees to a 2 lakh rupee cream as well, right? So it just depends what you're putting inside. You very rightly said India is a price sensitive market, and hence that optimization between the margins that you keep as a company versus the MRP that's attractive enough for the consumer is something that needs to be played with creatively. But yeah, it's doable at good margins is what I would like to say.
I mean, that's why Ghazal is the Chief Innovation Officer. She has a magic. Thanks, Burgess, for your question. I think next question I just read, and Bindi, it's a very interesting question. So, would you like to ask that to Ghazal? I can ask on her behalf, Ghazal. I think that it is a very relevant question. What she was mentioning, as a woman, how did you deal with the bros club that exists in the funder circuit?
Yeah, I mean, after being uncomfortable for a long while, I just figured that I need to find comfort in being that uncomfortable. And one, creating a seat at the table for myself. Second, ensuring that I was creating a few more seats on that table for other women to come in, has been a long journey. And I mean, a very small example of what happened very recently, right? There's this one of the world's largest media houses holding a conferences, and they invited me into that. And of course, they invited the CEOs of like other multinationals and large companies. And I walk into this small room with just 25 people, out of which 22 are men. I was a woman. There was one person who was from their team who was a woman. And then there was this one woman who walked in about 25 minutes after I was in the room. And of course, I didn't know anybody else. So it was quite uncomfortable. I was just looking left and right of what to do. How many times can you introduce yourself and say, this is what I'm doing? And then the conversation just ends there. But this one man who heads a multinational just created a little space on his table. And that table was actually having 5 more people on it, 5 men, running equally large businesses. And he just invited me, Ghazal, why don't you come and be a part? And I think that's all that I needed. After that, I stayed at that event for 2.5 years, being very comfortable, constantly speaking, sharing, learning, and all of that. But that one, just a little comment that, come join us. And over time, we realized that all the 3 women who were there in the room were on that table. So it was 5 men and 3 women on that same small table, right? We didn't even fit in, but we were there. So I think even in the boys club, something like that, see, a lot of times we feel out of place. We feel that the guys are talking about this topic we might not be interested in. We might be thinking about our kids. We might be thinking that, oh God, we could have been home and like spent this time more effectively, which is how women usually feel. Even I've seen people that after 7 o'clock, while everybody else is going on networking dinners, etc., women would be, I want to go back home. I'd rather spend my time with kids, or my kids have an exam the next day. I think that is something that we're the only ones who can change that, right? It's not like they're not inviting us. One, we need to invite our own selves. We need to create a community where we are feeling more comfortable, not just with them, but also ensuring that we are doubling down us as women. And third, accepting the discomfort for a while, and then saying that, now I am going to find comfort in this discomfort. I know it sounds very weird, and it's like, what is she talking about? But try it, right? It actually helps. When you push your own self, you will suddenly realize that this was not that difficult. It's okay. And of course, we need to create that strong community. There is no two way about it. And I always say that, for every woman that I talk to or I mentor, I just request them to further give it out to 2 more women. And I just know when all of them started doing that, that network effect will help us create a community much faster than we imagine. I already see a very positive change coming in. I see the number of women building companies and being passionate about their career choices, on an uprise, at least from what it was when I got into this industry. It has improved significantly. And for any statistic, any data to show in statistic, I think it takes decades, right? For whatever, by the end of, I think, 2025, this number will significantly go up and we will see that change coming in.
No, definitely. I think it's great to hear that as men also, that they are taking a lead in ensuring that women has a seat on the table, and I think both men and women, they need to come together to make a difference. And it's so good to see a lot of men joining in for the conversation as well, because as we are thinking about making India a $5 trillion economy, we need all of us to work together to increase the women participation. The next question is actually a $1 billion question, and I would also love to know the answer. Apur, do you want to go next?
Thanks, Anna. So the question is, what is the kind of GM required in DTC to actually be profitable?
Oh my God. You're going to make me drill down into my PNL. I just had like a monthly review.
This is like business. This is where the business school questions are now coming in, where we have to ask you all these $1 billion business questions.
Yeah. See, I don't think we have also figured it out. We are profitable. We are running that channel profitably. What we have identified is that there are stages in building a company direct to consumers, and we need to be respectful of those stages. It is also a very vicious cycle, and hence how deep do you want to get into it is a choice that you need to consciously make. Just to give you an example, we had scaled our D2C business to a certain extent, and in the last 2 months, and I'm just hoping this stays within this community itself because it's very personal, but in the last 2 months we decided that we are going to go back. We're going to scale back and bring in more efficiencies into the channel. And I think the only thing that has helped us achieve that is keeping track of our unit economics on that channel. What is it that we are acquiring the consumer at? How much are we spending in acquiring that consumer? How much are we spending in like they say, like LTV, right? Lifetime value, which is measured through repeats and how much you're spending. I think not just on a one purchase a level is where we had created that funnel, but on a 6-month level, and then on a year level, and then evaluating which is that ideal place till which we want to keep spending on bringing that consumer back to us, is something that we have figured in the last 2 years. We're still in the process of figuring that out. But it makes a lot of sense to, one, when you're starting out, scale the business and get more and more people onto your platform, into your brand. That helps you establish your product market fit. That also tells you how are consumers feeling about your product. Very, very important. If you get positive signals from there, then you look at scaling it further, right? Which is where you can put a goal to yourself that, okay, this is the amount of money that I have to spend. In this money, I want to acquire these many consumers, and hence my per acquisition cost can go up maximum to this. And you keep a guardrail around that. I mean, setting the right guardrails is extremely important. We figured it out much later in our journey. I wish we had known it much earlier, but have that guardrail. And then third, once you've acquired those many consumers, instead of being greedy like we did, and we further kept scaling ourselves, I think the third thing which is very important to do is thinking about growing sustainably after that, right? Now, sustainable growth is which should ideally bring you certain profits or be neutral. Because after that, you can then keep acquiring, keep churning, and keep bringing in more consumers. You'll know your P&L will not bleed. There's no effective number that I can put in because it's different for different businesses. It's very different for technology. It's very different for a personal care brand like us. The good thing that we have is very, very good gross margins when it comes to product. And hence that acquisition cost compared to the consumer coming in and buying just one product sort of makes sense. But over the years, what we've also realized is that at least for a brand like us, it makes a lot more sense to be omni-channel rather than just one channel dependent. Again, going by consumers and their choice of purchase and being available wherever they want to purchase from. So having that bias in our mind that we want to be D2C only might also not be the right thing. You should actually explore all the channels and see what is it that's making sense to your life stage of business and how do you want to expand it forward. I hope that was helpful. I mean, I would love to sit and possibly explain this on an Excel sheet.
I'm going to take you up, Ghazal. We are practically neighbors. So I'm at Crest. So I'm going to take you up on that offer.
Sure. I would love to sit with you on that.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so we're gonna take one last question before we wrap up. So Sanjay, do you want to go next?
Hey, Ghazal, thank you so much for sharing that inspiring story with us. You know,
Thank
you
you.
are a celebrity and you know it. So actually, I'd like to ask two questions if you guys are okay with it. Yeah. So first question is, you started this business when you felt there was this problem that your child was facing, and you got into that business. Tell me, when did you really try and size this opportunity? Did you do it right in the beginning, or over the journey, sometime you started doing it?
So to answer that question first, if you ask me what did I size it at, I told you, right? 10,000 customers, 100 crore brand. That's what I wanted to be. I didn't size it. I didn't know how to read markets. I just thought that I wanted to get into the baby care segment. The baby care itself is, at that point of time, it was like 700 crore kind of a market. That was it. And I thought that if I'm able to take like 1% share of it also, I'll be sorted. So that's what we began with in the first 2 months. We did not have a sense of, I particularly did not have a sense of P&L and how would we, sail through, what were the challenges that we were getting into. But I think as we got into it, we realized that one, the opportunity wasn't as small because we were not sizing it correctly. We were just looking at personal care market, while there was a completely different segment of diapers which existed and which just became the baby care market itself was 3x compared to what we had estimated it. Second, 6 months into the business, we realized that Mamaearth as a brand is not just limited to baby. It can actually go into mother care, adult care, which is what consumers told us. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that you don't have to get it right at the start. See, I actively advocate, don't strive for perfection. And in that perfection, we a lot of times let go of the good that we have, right? Once you have something good, go forward and learn while you're building it, or learn on the go. That is something that has helped me personally a lot. But yeah, I mean, we would have been very happy if we were even 100 crore brand back then. Like we would have felt, it was just that opportunities kept coming. They kept paving our way forward. They still are, from just one brand, like I said, to now 6 brands, and the opportunity suddenly became so large that now we want to take much more of that and build much more. So it's an evolution more than figuring it out at the start of it.
Thank you. And a quick follow-up question. What is the piece of advice that you will give to any new founder in terms of when they start out? You can never be a one-man army. You need a certain support system. So should be seeking a support system, or should we be telling yourself that I can do it alone? That's one. And two is, what are the pitfalls that you need to look out for?
So yeah, it's a very deep question. I'm not sure how will I be able to answer it. But for example, the first question that you said, that should you be building it alone or should you look for that support system? I would just rephrase that support system to skills. What is it that you're good at? What is it that you're not good at? And hence there can be somebody else who can come in and support you with those complementary skills. And what I've realized is that at the start of it, you need to have somebody. It could be your family supporting you in your journey. It could be your partner, which is what I figured was the best person to get on board. It could be your team that you're building. You don't necessarily have to have a co-founder, but it could be a team who's bringing in all of those skills, right? It should be decided by the commitment that you want the other person to make towards that business, right? So for example, I might be very creative, I might be very innovative. I knew the products really well. I knew the content and the marketing bit of it, but I might not be as strong as other skills that the business needed. And hence, a person who was equally committed to my vision could come as a co-founder. If not, I could hire people with those specific skills and make them become a part of my team. So there are two ways of thinking about it. Second, around pitfalls, I think for me, I only figured them as I got into the journey. And thank God I didn't know them at the start of it. I probably would have, like I said, that emotion of fear sometimes makes you stop from doing what you really want to do. Some of those biases actually pull you down. I'm so glad I didn't think about them, because having a mindset of just figuring it out rather than thinking about how will we figure it out, there's a difference, and the other one just works beautifully in my case. So that's how I navigated through the pitfalls, I think.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Great. We know we're already out of time, but Ghazal, this has been a fantastic conversation. I have one last question for you. Any final thought, any learnings that you would want to share with this group or builders in general?
Talked about it, I think, during our chat as well, but to everybody in this group, right? A lot of times we have certain biases in our mind that, only after this we'll take the next step. Only if we have a particular degree or we've studied it is when we'll get into entrepreneurship. Only when we have garnered XYZ amount of experience is when we'll think of, or XYZ amount in the bank is when we'll think about starting up, or getting into a job and then saying, I can't have kids because this is my ambition. I think we should just free ourselves from some of these biases, just keep an open mind, get into what you feel is the right thing for you to do at that life stage, and keep moving forward. Would be my very, very strong advice to everybody on this group and all the aspiring entrepreneurs and builders out there. It just helps take away so much pressure off you, rather than just, you thinking about stuff and creating scenarios in your mind which really don't exist, which might not come into picture if you're moving in the other direction. So why not move forward and figure them out? And second, I would say, don't hesitate from asking for help from anybody and everybody around you. It could be your team, your family, your friends, your spouse. When you're asking for help, think of it as a sign of strength, because you don't want to give up on either. Both of the things are important for you. And when you show that in the way you command or ask for help, the other person also then receives it in the similar way, rather than being apologetic that you're asking for help.
Fantastic. And with such a strong message, right? Keep moving forward with that. A big thank you, Ghazal, on behalf of HBS Club of India, and a big thank you for all the participants who joined this session. I hope you all enjoyed this conversation, learned the right gross margin that you need for your D2C business. But again, thank you everyone, and have a great week ahead.
Hey, thank you everybody for joining in, and thank you, Anna, for having me here. I loved us chatting, and I loved answering a few questions. I hope they added value back to everybody here. But thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye, folks.
Bye. Yeah, no?